Last month's tip was on clarity, and this month we are still focusing on clarity, but more specifically on grammar, because grammar is part of clarity. If you remember last month's tip, we talked about how the order of words is the thing that creates meaning, and grammar is that order, is the rules around that order, as well as the punctuation that we use in order to help readers be able to follow the order of information. So why does grammar matter? Okay, so on the one hand, we have grammar matters because that's the thing that allows us to understand each other. Grammar is the rules that help us understand when I say something, here's what you're going to understand as the meaning of that thing. The order matters. But also because people are judging us, and always uncomfortable to think about, but people who don't know you are trying to decide whether they can trust you. And grammar is one shortcut by which we decide whether someone who has written to us is worthy of our trust and attention. And it's not fair, and it's not real. Grammar doesn't tell us actually whether you're trustworthy, but it is a superficial signal that humans use. And we use lots of superficial signals. When we're in person, the signal that we use the most is clothing. So what you are wearing tells us whether we can trust you or not. Superficially. So if you come to an interview and you're dressed up, then I am more likely to think that you know you're supposed to dress up for an interview, so you probably know other stuff. And you care about the impression that you're going to make, so you probably care about other things. If you come into your interview and you're wearing a swimsuit, it's out of place. So what I think, if someone comes in for an interview wearing a swimsuit, do they not know any better? And if they don't know this basic thing, what else don't they know? Or do they not care? Like, they don't care about me, they don't care about my impression of them. And if they don't care about this thing, about clothing, then what else don't they care about? So that's sort of where our brains go to when we're trying to decide immediately whether we can trust somebody or not. Do they have enough knowledge, and do they care about us as the person they're interacting with? And if they're sending the wrong signals, then we end up thinking, oh, I can't trust you. And that clothing, so the choices that we make around clothing end up being similar to the choices we make around grammar in writing. So grammar is like your clothes. If your grammar is correct, you know that. You must know other things. You care about that. You probably care about other stuff. If your grammar is incorrect, then we usually default to not trusting you, because if your grammar is wrong, if you don't know that, there's probably other stuff you don't know. Or if you don't care about that, then you don't care about me. And so I can't trust you. All right. So when we're thinking about grammar, we're thinking about how can we make sure that our first impression in writing is really going to get the other person to trust us. And checking our grammar and making sure that it's accurate is going to be one of those quick and easy things we can do in order to make sure that we're building trust from the very beginning. Now, checking grammar can be difficult. So the suggestions that I have for how to go about checking your grammar are basically wait 15 minutes after you've written something before you review it. It's really difficult for humans to check our own work immediately after writing it. So the longer you can wait, the better you're going to be at checking the grammar. And when you go back to review it after 15 minutes, I would encourage you to read it out loud and to use multiple senses. When you use multiple senses in the proofreading process and revising and editing, you are using multiple areas of your brain to evaluate that same content. So if you just read with your eyes, only one area of your brain is processing that information. But if you read it out loud, you're moving your mouth, you're hearing with your ears, and so you have 3 areas of your brain. And if you even touch the screens, you can touch with your finger or a pen and follow along, you get a 4th area involved in processing that information. And so it makes you a better editor, just like having multiple senses helps us navigate the world more effectively. You can also do some tricky things like changing the color or the background, changing the font. Those are just little tools to change your attention. You can always ask another person to review it, especially if you don't have 15 minutes or longer that you can wait before reviewing. You can go get a different brain to review your writing. And if you don't have access to a different brain, you might use some AI tools like Grammarly to help you review. Just keep in mind that those tools have been programmed with rules, and that no rules in English are 100% of the time. And so you are going to have to review whether the suggestions that AI is making are actually going to serve you or not. So check every suggestion that it makes and don't assume that it knows more than you do. It knows some of the rules, but you know how to use language to communicate effectively with others. And so check each of its suggestions to see if it aligns with your knowledge. Hopefully these tips are helpful for you, and you can keep thinking about how you are using grammar in your messages, or making sure that your grammar is going to build trust with your audiences as you're writing to them.